While you may think that humans are the most dramatic animals on the planet with a whole catalog of public freakouts, Karen complaints, and meme-worthy shenanigans, it seems that our furry friends are also pretty comfortable in the spotlight. Although most animals are pretty darn elusive when it comes to capturing their bizarre behavior on camera, it turns out that some of them just can't help themselves when it's their turn to shine. From con artist canines, fainting snakes, and a gorilla with a serious attitude problem, here are 15 overdramatic animals who deserve an Oscar. Frightened cats. Alright, hold up, because for our first entry, let's take a look at this hilarious image that our team recently discovered while searching for shocked animals. You see, while cats are a pretty precious commodity all across the internet, it appears that frightened felines are some of our best-loved meme-worthy content. Take a look at this overdramatic cat, who's found themselves trapped in the razor-sharp jaws of a plushy shark toy. Pretty perilous, right? Well, have you ever wondered just exactly why cats in particular are so terrified of everyday household objects? Particularly those that take the form of other animals. Incredibly, as it turns out, the sensory perceptions of felines are so hypersensitive that even the most mundane of everyday objects can be interpreted as ravenous enemy predators to our furry friends, particularly those that have circular objects attached to them, which cats see as a gigantic enemy eye staring down at them from the undergrowth. In fact, when you start to understand this simple fact, the behavior of felines starts to make a whole lot more sense. Remember all those hilarious videos of cats freaking out at cucumbers on the floor? Well, they thought it was a snake. No wonder they lost their minds. You see, while this overdramatic and equally hilarious behavior is pretty fun to watch, we have to remember that our feline friends are still one link away from being a wild animal, and those survival instincts are pretty darn difficult to shake. Hey, did you know that if you smash the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell, you're more likely to win the lottery? So what are you waiting for? Gay the limping dog. From the bizarre behavior of felines to a much more unexpected method for man's best friend, it's no secret that us humans adore dogs, and for the most part, we find bundles of joy when watching our lovable canine friends going to incredible lengths in order to bag themselves treats and belly rubs. However, this next pooch takes that attention-seeking behavior to an entirely new level, with an Oscar-worthy performance that would give Old Yeller a run for his money. Meet Gay, a street dog from Thailand who has found an innovative way to convince tourists and locals alike into giving him food by faking an injury where he drags his back leg along the ground as if it were broken. Well, while this remarkable canine has set himself apart as an incredibly intelligent pooch, as a young pup, he quickly noticed that the other dogs on the street would receive more attention from tourists, and so he styled himself in the same manner in order to keep his belly full on the mean streets of Bangkok. Despite the fact that he's since become a celebrity and receives treats and food on a daily basis, he'll still try and pull the same leg stunt, and it turns out that you can teach an old dog new tricks, especially if they're starring in the lead role. Lulu gets caught in the act. Sure, that dog may be one charismatic canine, but this next entry shows a puppy going to incredibly dramatic lengths in order to avoid going on every pet's least favorite road trip, to the vets. You see, just like humans, dogs often get nervous at the prospect of seeing their dog doctors, and it seems that our canine best friends have a surprising sixth sense when it comes to getting them ready to visit the vet. Well, back in 2014, when this tiny pooch named Lulu was due for a vet appointment, she decided to bury her head in the sand and cover herself up in a clever pot by playing dead. Lulu, who's from New Zealand, was scheduled to be spayed at the vet, and seemingly aware of her fate, she decided to pretend that she was comfortably tucked up under the covers while her owner tried to coax her out. At first, Lulu's acting efforts are pretty darn cute, and even her owner seems impressed by her dedication to remaining completely still. However, things quickly take a hilarious turn when it seems apparent that Lulu's commitment to her acting role is on a whole different level. And despite shouts and yells from her owner, Lulu refuses to acknowledge that she's got an appointment with the vet. You gotta give it to her, that's some pretty convincing method acting. The mantis dance. Alright, while it seems these overdramatic behaviors are reserved for our furry feline and canine friends, the insect world definitely has its fair share of high tension. In fact, when compared to most other species of animal, insects play their own part in one of the most dramatic shows on the planet, a cutthroat world where life and death often hangs in the balance. While flies, wasps, moths, and ants have their fair share of dramatic tendencies, none of them compare to the horror show of the praying mantis. It's a show that's captivated by one of the most terrifying and grotesque moments in the insect world, known as the Dance of Death, a ritual that praying mantises perform when trying to attract a mate, that ultimately result in one of them getting their heads bitten off. Yikes! With their legs outstretched and their bodies artfully poised in a dramatic pose, the male praying mantis often appears like they're about to take a leading role in Saturday Night Fever. However, once the female turns up, things take a much darker turn, as it appears that the male praying mantis may be performing their last dance on Earth. While there are over 24,000 different species of mantises, wider known as Mantodea, these complex and fascinating insects all seem to exhibit the same exact ritualistic behavior. When it comes to the overdramatic world of insects, these guys will live and die for their art, literally. Sneaky hognose snakes. You may have seen the famous fainting goats, a variety of myotonic bundle of fluff that falls to the crowd when they're threatened, but have you ever seen the fainting snake? Well, in fact, these snakes don't just faint, they're so committed to the overdramatic behavior that they'll appear to play dead in order to escape the clutches of an overpowering predator. Meet the hognose snake, a sneaky species of slithering serpent that fakes its own death in the most overdramatic way imaginable. You see, while this defensive strategy is found in many animals across the planet, particularly possums and the previously mentioned goats, the hognose snake is one of the only ones of its kind that's decided to jump on the bandwagon behavior often chosen by prey animals rather than predators. The hognose snake and their wider relatives won't resort to the melodramatic behavior immediately. And before they fake their own deaths, they'll often flatten their necks like a cobra and hiss loudly. When that doesn't work, it's time to play dead. However, despite what you'll read on the internet, hognose snakes are incredibly venomous, and although their toxins aren't particularly dangerous to humans, their play-dead behavior has led to a number of people getting bitten when they pick up these cute serpents to offer aid. As a rule of thumb, it's probably best that you don't pick up any wild snakes, right? Slapstick baby pandas. While pandas are everyone's favorite monochromatic bear, often famed for their reluctance to romance and their lazy behavior, did you know that they were also some of the most hilarious slapstick comedians in the animal kingdom? Take a look at this insanely cute footage captured earlier this year at the Chengdu Animal Research Base in China that shows two mischievous and persistent panda cubs trying to cause havoc with their zookeeper. May, the keeper at the giant panda facility, was trying to sweep fallen leaves in the youngster's enclosure, but it quickly turned out that she'd have a hard time in doing so while the two cubs rolled and tumbled around with other things in mind. From the moment May tried to open the door into the enclosure, the twin baby pandas become the stars of the show, rolling and tumbling around and generally just being their playful, curious selves. At one point, they even climb inside the keeper's basket and scatter the swept leaves back across the enclosure. Sure, her job may take a while, but she's part of the cutest show on Earth. Larry the improv parrot. Birds are incredible animals, often famed for their bizarre behavior and complex intelligence, and when it comes to being the animated orators of the animal kingdom, parrots are the stars of the show. One parrot in particular, Larry, has taken the internet by storm with his hilarious comedic antics, and he may very well be the funniest bird that you'll ever encounter. You see, parrots are without a doubt one of the most entertaining and amusing animals on Earth, and not only are some species masters at imitating human speech, it also turns out that they can perform entire comedic routines, complete with sound effects and crowd participation. While Larry has become a household name for his owners, this particular clip seemed to tickle their funny bones, and they couldn't help but reach for the camera and shine the spotlight on his routine. What Larry says in this clip isn't exactly clear, It's quite obvious that he's trying to impersonate a dialing phone, perhaps the precursor to a conversation that he'd overheard from his owners. The hilarious thing is, while Larry only makes sense half of the time, it appears that he's imitating how us humans must sound to birds. The lizard that thrills. Ever wonder how thrilling a frilled lizard could be? Well, as it turns out, thrilling enough to inspire one of the most famous scenes in Hollywood cinema. Well, 1993's Jurassic Park featured an iconic frilled dinosaur that spits venomous wads of poison at an unfortunate park technician. It seems that the origin behind that scene was inspired by an actual reptile, the frill-neck lizard, a species that demonstrates one of the most overdramatic behaviors in the animal kingdom. While it's primarily bluff and bluster, a frill-neck lizard's bizarre display can actually be surprisingly intimidating, particularly if you're still recovering from that terrifying scene in Steven Spielberg's dinosaur thriller. Native to northern Australia and southern New Guinea, the frill-neck lizard is a member of the dragon family, and at an average size of 3 feet from head to tail, they're certainly one of the larger lizards of the animal kingdom. When a frill-neck feels threatened, it raises its body and opens its bright pink or yellow-colored mouth, unfurling its bright red and scaly skin flap as a formidable umbrella weapon. Sure, it's pretty extra, but it's also terrifying. Macho gorillas. Without a doubt, when it comes to the action heroes of the animal world, gorillas are at the top of the casting list, and having played iconic roles such as King Kong, Joe Mighty, and Donkey Kong, these macho gorillas have definitely earned their place in the animal acting world. However, despite the fictional roles of these much-loved characters, it's important to remember that gorillas are wild animals, and when threatened in captivity, they'll often respond with rightful animalistic aggression. Take a look at this astonishing footage that appears to show a young girl playfully beating her chest to a silverback gorilla at Henry Dorley Zoo in Omaha. However, moments later, the gorilla charges towards her, smashing the window and cracking the glass enclosure in the process. As planned, the gorilla's scare tactic quickly scatters the bystanders, frightening everyone in the vicinity away from the enclosure. Hey, it may be pretty darn dramatic, but it definitely worked. Flipper the dolphin. In Hollywood, few aquatic animals are as iconic as Flipper the dolphin, but the truth is, this animal's Oscar-worthy career was wrought with heartbreaking undertone. In the acting world, they say that working with animals is a challenge all on its own, and in the decades gone by, countless tales of animal neglect have come to light. Flipper, which was a TV show in the 1960s, told the tale of Ranger Porter Ricks and his 2 sons, Bud and Sandy, who lived alongside their pet dolphin named Flipper at Coral Key Park, Florida. As an incredibly intelligent dolphin, Flipper assisted the family with their life-saving antics, similar to roles played by Free Willy and even Lassie the Labrador. However, Flipper was actually played by 5 completely different dolphins, many of which were determined to be clinically depressed by being forced into performing for the show. In fact, the tragedy of these dolphins had such a profound impact on some of the crew that the show's animal handler, Richard O'Barry, shifted his career toward anti-captivity activism following the show. Since then, O'Barry has dedicated his career to saving dolphins and other animals from being kept in captivity for entertainment purposes. Dogs who love walking. Alright, we all must know that dogs have 2 things, treats and walks. For those of you that are fortunate enough to have your own pet pooch, you'll know that yelling walkies is a surefire way into getting your dog to bolt out of their beds quicker than a rat up a drain pipe. But for this next playful pooch, the thought of leaving the dog park is simply out of the question. You see, some dogs have so much fun during their walk that the prospect of cutting it short forces them to pull the most dramatic tantrum imaginable. Almost like a human child at their favorite jungle gym, this dog seems like he'll never be ready to leave the park. And although his tactics may come across as lazy, it seems that this dog is in for the long haul. While most dog owners are going about their business, this poor guy is forced to try and coax this golden Labrador out of their Oscar-worthy performance. And it's not until the temptation of a treat that he finally cracks. Talk about dedication. Vienna's Lipizzaner Stallions. No matter the breed, horses are truly majestic animals. famed for their beautiful and serene appearance that often stirs some powerful emotions. However, one of the most strikingly beautiful varieties on the planet are Australia's Lipizzaner stallions, the white dancing horses of Vienna that are the most dramatic and breathtaking horses on earth. Native to Central Europe, this variety of horse traces its origin back to the Cossacks of Russia, some of the most famed horse riders in history that played an integral role in shaping the course of the continent. As a noble horse breeder, Lipizzaner horses can trace their lineage back to the 15th century and were originally bred purely for royalty and military skirmishes. If you're looking for a war horse for the starring role, Vienna's Lipizzaner stallions are without equal. The waving bears of Washington. Here's a question. What do you do when a bear waves at you? Do you turn tail and run? Never look back? Or do you wave back? After all, leaving them hanging seems kind of rude, right? Well, take a look at this truly remarkable video, captured by a photographer who decided to bid farewell to his large, furry friend by waving as he left the Olympic National Park in Washington state. While the photographer joyfully waved goodbye, to his complete and utter surprise, the Kodiak bear decided to wave back, standing just 10 feet away from the extraordinary animal. The pair were separated only by a small wire fence, and the photographer reported that the animal didn't seem threatening at all. In fact, he seemed super happy to see him. However, it seems that the Olympic Game Farm, where the bear and many others are kept, has since become somewhat of a hotbed for controversy, further fueled by the multitude of viral videos that have emerged from the park. While there are around 19 of these bears kept in the Washington Reserve, which is just a 2-hour drive from Seattle, they've become so used to interacting with humans that waving like a person has become a second nature to them. Since then, they've become the stars of their own internet sensation. But is it cruel or cool? Let us know what you think below. The solo tango of Victoria's riflebird. While we've seen some pretty dramatic birds already, none of them can contend with the breathtaking shapes that this strutting tango bird can muster. Forget about dancing with the stars, because when it comes to shaking a tail feather, the Victoria riflebird takes the top spot. In the animal kingdom, there are few families of birds as bewildering as the birds of paradise. Feathered jewels with extraordinary dances of bright and dramatic colors that often appear strikingly similar to that of famed performances that we know and love, like the cha-cha and, of course, the tango. Well, while the Victoria riflebird may not be the most brightly colored bird of paradise, you only need to see its dramatic performance on the stage to appreciate just how extravagant this animal truly is. Cashew the hungry French bulldog. And finally, what better note to end on than with one of the cutest pooches we've ever seen. Meet Cashew, the tiny French bulldog that took the internet by storm earlier this year when they threw one of the most dramatic hangry tantrums known to dog kind. Sure, while all of us will get a little touchy when we're running on empty, Cashew the hungry French bulldog had no such excuse. As he'd already chowed down on his kibble and had already filled up his daily dietary quota. However, you know when you're on a diet and that plate of kale just doesn't cut it? Well, that's exactly how Cashew felt. Despite being scolded by his owner for trying to eat outside his diet, Cashew seems undeterred and instead keeps his head firmly toward her doggy bowl, waiting for some delicious kibble. Stay strong, Cashew. We know that dieting is pretty hard, but you've got to commend his commitment, right? Well, there we have it, 15 overdramatic animals who deserve an Oscar. Which one was your favorite? Let us know your thoughts down below, and as always, thanks for sticking around all the way until the end. See you next time.